Dude, we were in it for the fucking money and fame. Everyone in the Seattle scene was. Anyone who says they weren't, they're lying. Except Mike, he was in it for the babes. Our motto back in the day was, we rock the deaf. Our music comes by instinct. We play the first thing that kicks in. If we're not having fun doing it, no one will have fun listening to us.
I can't help you blue. Yo!
88 was a big year for me personally and professionally. In the beginning of 88, going by the name Diamond Lie, we made our first demo, known as the Treehouse tape. We actually recorded it in a treehouse. It had the I Can't Have You Blues on it, a cover of David Bowie's Suffragette City, and a couple other tracks.
Hey man, oh, leave me alone, you know. Hey man, oh Henry, get off the phone, I got it. Hey man, I gotta straighten my face. This mellow last year should put my spine out of place.
It ended up playing a crucial role in us coming up. Mike's sister Melinda was our #1 fan and biggest supporter. She was friends with Randy Houser and gave him a cassette of the Treehouse tape. Randy was a local promoter, hairstylist, and coke dealer. About a month after she gave him the demo, he came to see us play and was blown away.
I'm the queen of the rodeo.
He became our first manager and began promoting the hell out of us. He also paid the rent at our rehearsal room and got us unbanned from the OK Hotel, the Vogue, and the Grand Central Tavern. Previously during the show, I threw a milkshake into the crowd and that shit got us blacklisted. And Sean had thrown a punch at the owner of one of the clubs. Randy brought in Ken Deans to co-manage us. We started getting serious attention from record labels, but nobody liked the name Diamond Lie. So we took up my old band name Alice in Chains. I called my old bandmates to make sure it was cool with them, and they gave me their blessings. In the summer of '88, Jerry went to an Iron Maiden concert with Guns N' Roses as the opening act. Jerry handed Axl Rose a copy of our demo, but he immediately tossed it in the trash. It could have been the greatest album ever made, but it wouldn't matter. We were nobodies. It takes a lot more than just good music to break out. It takes perseverance and a belief in yourself, no matter what happens or what anyone else says. But honestly, sometimes even that's not enough. You need the wind to be blowing your way. On July 20th, 1988, at midnight, the DA raided the music bank. It turned out we'd been living next door to a fucking forest of pot. I can't remember how many times we'd been like, man, we need some weed. And it's right through the damn wall. 15 to 20 armed police officers stormed into the building, pointing guns and yelling. Stand against the wall. I had just walked around the corner and was getting ready to head out with a couple of strippers. The girls were all coked out and started bitching up one side and down the other and calling the cops pigs. It got to the point where I had to tell them to shut up. Jerry was sleeping on the couch when the cops bursted into our rehearsal room. There was weed strewn across his coffee table and things like that. Dude, he thought he was getting busted. Jerry spent the next couple hours trying to convince the cops that there weren't any drugs and pleading with them to not confiscate our gear. We ended up hitting it off with the cops and they let us take our gear. We stacked everything outside the front door of the bank and ended up sleeping under the stars so nobody would steal our shit. Our manager Ken Deans came with a van the next morning and took us and all our gear to a recording session at London Bridge Studios. We re-recorded the Treehouse tapes on a 24-track. The original recording was done on just an 8-track. In '88, I also met the love of my life.
Love, sex, pain, confusion.
first met Demery at a party. I know it sounds cliche, but it was love at first sight. I never had a serious relationship until I met Demery. She always had faith in me, always, even up until the very end. And she would tell everyone that I was going to be a star, and defended me even after we split up. Nobody could shake her confidence in me. My friends used to joke that I had found the woman of my dreams with the body of a 12-year-old boy. She was just barely 5 feet and never weighed more than 100 pounds. Man, we had so much fucking fun in the early days. Before heroin, we were always laughing, just being silly. And those were the happiest days of my life. In late '88, our manager Randy tested positive for coke on his parole drug test and was sent to jail. Ken Deans brought in Kelly Curtis and Susan Silver to manage us. In the early '90s, they were managing Pearl Jam and Soundgarden too. Susan played a huge role in the Seattle scene. Her and Cornell wound up getting hitched. She genuinely cared for me and everyone she managed. One of the few people who put our well-being before the money. At the start of '89, the buzz around Seattle was getting nutty.
Soundgarden, Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains.
All the Seattle bands were happening. Nirvana, Soundgarden, Mother Love Bone, and us were getting the most attention. When Alice in Chains packed out the Central Tavern 2 nights in a row. And that's when I was completely satisfied. And that's when my dreams came true. In Seattle, I was a rock star.
And the Chains Master, otherwise known as Alice in Chains.
The record companies started coming around, but I had never even thought about that. And it was enough for me to be a star in Seattle. But the record labels decided there was money to be made. The Seattle was going to be the next big thing and everybody wanted a piece of it. So from Mother Love Bone on, the signings were straight up bidding wars. Everything climaxed during the epic summer of '89. It was a fucking scorcher. We'd hit the beach all day and party all night. And that summer became the inspiration for the song. Long Gone Day.
Long gone day.
All the other Seattle bands had signed except for us, which ended up working out in our favor. Even before we got signed, we had a lot of big shows. And some arena shows through a friend of our manager's. It's a whole different ballgame playing arena shows. Man, I had a horrible stage fright. I think the first time was with Great White and Tesla. And I was dry heaving behind the bass cabinet. And it wasn't until like halfway through the set that I actually realized where I was. The summer ended with us signing with Columbia after 8 months of negotiations. We got a killer deal. We were able to retain things that you can't usually keep when you're a new band, like publishing. We are one of the last bands ever to get signed that kept all their publishing. With the deal signed, it was time to make a fucking record. Columbia sent our demo tape to all the biggest producers, but they all kept passing on us. Everyone was looking for high voices like Axl and Dio. Our demo tape had 12 songs on it that were kind of all over the place. Some songs were punk, others were heavy metal. We hadn't really settled on our sound yet. Rick Rubin and Dave Jordan came to see us play at a club in LA. Rick walked out after a few songs, but Jordan saw the magic. And he came up to Jerry and said, "What you're doing is what Tony Iommi was doing in Black Sabbath." And we clicked right away. He's dark and twisted just like us. His favorite songs on the demo were Man in the Box, We Die Young, Love Hate Love. We recorded most of Facelift at London Bridge Studio. Facelift was when we truly became Alice in Chains.
Fuck. Okay, so we're done, right? Let's just get this album done today. I got a date tomorrow. I can't come in. Shit.
Let's just fucking, I mean, they can't tell us what to do, man. Let's just fucking, these 7 songs are good enough. Let's just do 7-song album. Fuck it. EP.
Let's do an EP first.
Before we started recording, Jordan gave us the unreleased album Ritual De Lo Habitual by Jane's Addiction. That shit blew my mind. One of the things that Jordan did to all the songs was slow the tempos down. It really helped develop the Alice sound. You know, that heavy and brooding sound with the tempo slowed down? On the demos, the tempos are much faster. Jordan is a mad scientist in the studio, making these crazy combinations of amps and playing with the frequencies to get the perfect sound. A sound that he would call machines that kill. Sean, being an idiot, had broken his hand at a party. And so we started recording the album with Greg Gilmore on drums. But he just wasn't hitting hard enough. Finally, Sean said fuck it and took off his cast 3 weeks early. The lyrics on Facelift were written by either me or Jerry. We had a really cool relationship. The way that we worked was we generally filled each other's gaps. Jerry or I would develop something and be like, "This is all I got, can you take it from here?" And the other would take it someplace new. I wrote Love, Hate, Love about my relationship with Demery. Just the toll that relationship was taking on my mind. And the pain, I was so conflicted. Part of me didn't want to be in a relationship, but I truly loved her and couldn't stand being apart from her. The song I Can't Remember is about my teen years and my feelings toward my parents growing up.
Turn around, you say, excuse the tooth, but I haven't eaten today, and my eyes are turning gray. What's your name? I can't remember.
We Die Young is about gang violence. And that was something that was happening in Seattle. Something that kind of opened our eyes. It just seemed like things were getting out of hand. Incidents where kids were getting shot and getting their tennis shoes ripped off their dead bodies. It just seems like these kids are dying at younger and younger ages and getting involved in gang activity.
Then you got hit, and you should have known better. And we die young. Faster we run. Down, you're rolling.
And Sunshine is about Jerry's mom, Gloria. When he was a little kid, he'd always tell her, "I'll be famous and buy you a house, and you'll never have to work again. I'll take care of you like you took care of me." When she passed away, it was a really shitty time for Jerry. He didn't know how to deal with it then, and still doesn't, but it gave him the impetus to do music. Where music's about taking something ugly and making it beautiful.
Burning drops and fire. Then some dude came down to touch the mother. Mother touch, the dude ain't here no more. Suck it one more time.
I remember for Man in the Box, I started writing about censorship Around the same time, we went out for dinner with some Columbia Records people who were vegetarians. They told me how veal was made from calves raised in these small boxes. And that image, it just stuck in my head. So I went home, got stoned, wrote about government censorship and eating meat, as seen through the eyes of a doomed calf. The guitar used on Man in the Box was actually a guitar that Jerry made in school in his shop class. And Jordan was driving to the studio one day while we were working on Man in the Box, and Bon Jovi's Living on a Prayer started playing on the radio. That's where the idea of adding a voice box to Man in the Box came from. You can hear me shout,
Sexual chocolate, baby!
At the end of the song, Real Thing. That came from the movie Coming to America, where Eddie Murphy is the singer of a band called Sexual Chocolate. Shit always cracked me up.
Yeah. Sexual chocolate!
The sessions at London Bridge wrapped up in December of '89. That Christmas was the first time in my life I had money to buy presents. We went to LA after the holidays to record my vocals and finish up the album. Los Angeles, I don't like that town. Too decadent and it's slimy. We recorded in a freshly remodeled Studio A. It was like $1 million coffin and the size of a gymnasium. They had this stairwell at the studio leading up to the roof, and Jordan set up Jerry's amp in there. And that's where the solo on Man in the Box was recorded. Jordan had me try out 20 different mics while singing the hook for Man in the Box. And when I tried the Newman M49, it sounded fucking huge.
Jesus Christ! Tries I'll feed my eyes.
It made everyone's hair stand up. We ended up using that mic a lot. Before I recorded vocals, I would do some of the warm-ups Maestro taught me. Mostly I had to get in the right mindset. But once I hit that mark, I could sing the whole album straight through in one go. I would go out into the middle of the recording room with only a stool to place a water bottle, an ashtray, and my sunglasses. I had them turn the lights down low so they could barely see me. And I got the vocals on the first take, basically every time. I'd been working my whole life for this moment. We doubled my vocals on Facelift, but it wasn't like my stacked vocals that came out on dirt. My dad, Phil, saw my picture on the front of a magazine and suddenly came back into my life. He visited the studio while I was recording vocals. He told the engineer while I was singing, "Man, where the fuck did he learn how to do that?" I just got the chills. My whole childhood I wanted to reconnect with my dad. When I was just a kid, I got a call saying my dad had died. My family always knew he was around doing all kinds of drugs. And since that call, I was always wondering, where's my dad? And I felt so sad for him and I missed him. He dropped out of my life for 15 years. And at 16, I even tried to find him without saying a word to my family. I did it for a long fucking time. And what I found over the years was not good. So I changed my mind about wanting to see my dad again. And my dad said he'd been clean of drugs for 6 years, so why the hell didn't he come back before? And I was very cautious at first. And was so busy with the band that we didn't get to spend much time together at this point. Right before we were done recording Facelift, Andy Wood OD'd. It was fucking heartbreaking. We used the Freddie Mercury of Seattle.
I'm crazy, crazy. I'm the boy who defies all. Yeah, lift me higher than anyone.
His band Mother Love Bone was about to blow up. He died just weeks before the release of their album Apple, which is a fucking masterpiece. At his memorial, I had a complete breakdown, just sobbing, man. I was so frightened and felt so lost. Losing Andy was the death of innocence. His passing really changed things for a few weeks. I probably got even heavier into drugs after that. We dedicated the album to Andy and Jerry's mom, Gloria. By spring of 1990, we had finished recording the album, but it didn't have a name yet. We met artist, photographer, and video director Rocky Schenk. He's a super talented dude. We worked with him on most of our album covers and some of our music videos. We went to his studio in Hollywood and spent a while creating distorted multiple exposure portraits of each band member. We chose a photo of Mike for the album cover, and once we saw the photo, we decided to name the album Facelift. In the summer of 1990, we filmed a video for We Die Young with Rocky. It was filmed at a burned down house in Glendale. The family who used to live there looked on in horror, and as we filled their once lovely swimming pool with their burned furniture and their children's burnt toys. We Die Young was our first single. Facelift was released on August 24th, 2 days after my 23rd birthday.
Alice in Chains, Facelift, the album featuring Man in the Box. And We Die Young. This is no dream and there's no going back. Facelift from Alice in Chains.
I gave my mom a cassette of the finished album. She called me and said, "I think there's a sleeper on that album. A song that's going to creep up on people. Man in the Box." I had told her that I wrote that song. She said, "Layne, it's so beautiful. I don't know why, but there's nothing as sweet as recognition from your parents." We hit the road immediately after the release of Facelift. We started with a month-long opening slot for the band Extreme. It was a pretty terrible pairing. Extreme fans were generally little seedy guitar player wannabe dudes. And they had just come out with the song, More Than Words. Extreme were from the old school of rock, and that was, you pretty much screw over the opening act and shit like turning down the PA on us and not giving us as many lights. Our approach when we were finally headliners was more kind of punk rock, like we're all in this together. As the tour progressed, we began winning over Extreme's audience. The shows were in clubs ranging from 500 to 1,500 people. And Jerry is a perfectionist. After every show, he'd think he fucked up here or there and would get a recording of the show, put a set of headphones on and practice getting better. For the next leg of the tour, we were opening for 80 Pop. They treated us a lot better on the ego stuff. We got cut back on lights somewhat, but the sound was boosted up better than when opening for Extreme.
I am the passenger, and I ride through the city backsides. I see the stars come out of the sky.
For Thanksgiving that year, we were in Kentucky. Pantera was touring with Prong in Mind over 4, and coincidentally, they were staying at the same hotel. Dude, picture 50 rock guys standing outside the door of the hotel bar waiting for it to open. And there's just one girl working there, thinking she's going to have a nice, easy day bartending because nobody's going to be at the hotel for Thanksgiving. But here's 5 rock bands and crews ready to watch football and get wasted. Within 30 minutes, she gave up trying to serve us and just put the bottles up on the counter. We started drinking at 1 in the afternoon and kept going well into the night. We tore that hotel to shreds. They just said, "Please leave, everybody leave." And the label was getting ready to release Man in the Box as our second single and wanted us to make a music video. Since it was my song, the label put me in touch with Paul Rackman, who was directing the video. He asked me to write down any specific ideas I had. I sent him a fax that read, "Rainy drippy barn, farm animals, and baby with eyes sewn shut." In December of 1990, we traveled to Los Angeles for 1 day to shoot the video on a farm at Malibu State Park. They said a baby with its eyes sewn shut was impossible, but Paul had this idea of a guy in a cape with his eyes sewn shut. He's kind of like Jesus taking care of animals, but he's blind. After finishing the tour with Iggy Pop, we returned to Seattle. On December 22nd, 1990, we played a homecoming show at the Moore Theater. We weren't selling any records at the time, so we had the idea to record a live show and give it away for free when you bought Facelift. Mookie Blaylock was the opening act. Mookie Blaylock was some of the Mother Love Bone guys, plus Eddie Vedder. Later on they changed their name to Pearl Jam at the end of their set. Chris Cornell took the stage and they performed songs from Temple of the Dog. And it was a pretty cool night. Having those guys perform with us made it special. Fucking great vibes. We spent New Year's Eve at Cameron Crowe and his wife Nancy Wilson's ranch. All of my band, Soundgarden and Mookie Blaylock, were there. We sat around till morning with acoustic guitars playing covers and making up new songs. We closed out the year having released our first album, shooting our first 2 music videos and going on our first national tours. But Facelift still hadn't taken off and we weren't getting played on the radio. All the radio stations turned down Man in the Box. They said my voice was wrong. How Man in the Box finally got going was, it got picked up by a syndicated radio station in Texas that had like 100 stations across the country. And the next thing you know, all the radio stations that turned us down were touting us as their new favorite band. The industry is full of fucking phonies. Cameron Crowe had been working on the script for the movie Singles when Andy died. Seeing the music scene come together after his death inspired him to make the movie based around the Seattle scene. Cameron wanted a song from us, so we got him to pay for us to record 10 songs. We gave him an inflated budget. We came up with the song Wood for the movie, and we demoed a bunch of shit. Some of those songs made it on Sap and Dirt. One of the songs, Lying Season, didn't make the cut for either record. And it just didn't fit the vibe of those releases. Jerry wrote the lyrics and the music for the song Wood. We were all thinking about Andy Wood a lot at the time. We always had a great time when we hung out with Andy. There was never really a serious moment or conversation, and it was all fun. Andy was so full of life and lighthearted, and it was devastating to lose him. Jerry always hated the people who judge the decisions others make. So it was also directed toward people who pass judgments. The shirt I wore in the music video belonged to Andy. in April of 91. We shot our scenes for the movie singles at a warehouse on a pier in downtown Seattle. That part of it was really fun, just being in that movie. But playing that song over and over on that pier was murder. And this junkie Dwayne Bodenheimer was also there. He's the singer of the Derelicts. I'd heard he'd been hanging out with Demery while I was on tour, and had called him a couple times asking if he was sleeping with her, but he lied and said they weren't. At the shoot, I came right up to him and said, "And you could have told me the first time you were sleeping with my girlfriend. You're a piece of shit. It should have been you that died instead of Andy Wood. I fucking hate you. Man, I regret saying all that crap now." The anger reflected my own struggles with being loyal to Demery. In reality, we kind of had an open relationship. I had many wild times while on tour, and we were apart a lot of the time. But being confronted with the truth of our infidelities just made me jealous and resentful. We did a brief West Coast tour with Mookie Blaylock as the opening act. And things had happened for us, and we were on our way. These guys were starting again after Mother Love Bone ended. We just wanted to give them as much support as they'd given us in the early days of our band. During that tour, we landed an opening slot at Ozzy Osbourne's Children of the Night benefit in Long Beach, California. We first met Ozzy's band at a motor lodge. When we were checking into our hotel and moving stuff from the bus to the rooms, we kept seeing this guy across the way in the bushes, and he didn't have any clothes on. It was Zach Wilde, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on? Can you guys give me a towel, man?" I locked myself out of my room. He didn't really mind being naked, but I think we got him a towel anyway. And then we grabbed a bunch of ice and beer from the bus and filled up his bathtub and spent the night just hanging out and drinking. That was also the first time we met Mike Inez, who later became our bass player. In the summer of 1991, by accident we became openers on the Clash of the Titans tour. The other three bands on the bill were Slayer, Megadeth, and Anthrax. The opening slot was originally supposed to go to Death Angel, but they had to bail out of the tour after a bus accident.
Anthrax. Slayer. Is it a game of speed metal King of the Hill, or just good loud fun? Megadeth's ever-provocative Dave Mustaine has characterized the uniting of the three bands, along with opening act Alice in Chains, as a clash of the egos.
The Slayer fans were brutal to us when we played at Red Rocks, and they were throwing so much shit at us that I could hardly see the crowd. Someone threw a huge water jug that knocked over Sean's cymbals, and spit was flying everywhere. All I could do was just shout, "Fuck you," and spit back at him. Somehow Dave Mustaine found out Alice in Chains used to be a glam band, and he thought it was fucking hilarious. At one show, he had posters made up of me and my old band dressed in glam, and put them up all over the arena and backstage. Fuck, those guys just ripped us into the ground. They were busting our chops left and right. And the biggest thing that happened to us in the summer of '91 was the breakout of the Man in the Box music video. MTV was at its peak. The VP of music at MTV and some of the other executives had a meeting to decide what video would be selected for the Buzz Bin.
Bow to the buzz.
A video selected for the Buzz Bin would get featured heavily in the video rotation.
In the future, everything will be simple. With just a look and a thought, anything can be yours. Feel the MTV Buzzbin CD Volume 2.
It was between this sort of late-in-the-game, big glossy hair metal band called Blue Murder, or us, this dark sepia-toned weird band. They decided it was time to change the landscape a little bit, and try something different, and they went with us. And that video in the MTV Buzzbin helped us out a lot. It blew us up really fast. My life changed forever, basically overnight. Facelift jumped from number 166 on the Billboard chart to 42. And the moment I knew we made it was when we walked into a bar on a night off from the tour and heard the bar band performing a cover of Man in the Box. We couldn't fucking believe it. The cover sounded horrible, but it was definitely Man in the Box. The bar band got all weirded out when they realized we were there. And Seattle Facelift was now getting more airplay than Nirvana, Pearl Jam, and Soundgarden combined. In '91, Demery and I got engaged. It felt like the start of our perfect life together. I had everything I ever wanted. My dream job and my dream girl. And I bought her, clad her ring, and we started making wedding plans. The wedding was going to be at the Kiana Lodge. Demery bought a wedding dress from a vintage clothing store in Pioneer Square. And Mike was going to be my best man. But then fame came and fucked everything up. People started coming up to Demery saying, "You're Layne's girlfriend." And then she'd say, "No, I'm Demery." She always had a strong sense of self. Shit, when she was just 2 years old. She had the vocabulary of a high school senior. She was a model, a poet, an artist, a fashion designer. But now she was just my girl. She hated losing her identity. Whenever we went out to dinner, fans would interrupt us asking for an autograph. My privacy was raked, and the fame freaked me out. People treated me like an object, and I was no longer a person, just a commodity to be sold. People didn't really know who I was. People would grab things from me. When someone's excited about what you do, you've got to give them respect and be grateful. But when they run by and pull a clump of dreadlocks out of your head and your scalp is bleeding, then you should just kick the shit out of them. In August of '91, Mike's dream came true. In his senior yearbook, he wrote that his goals were to become a rock star and tour with Van Halen. 7 years later, we were opening for Van Halen. Sammy Hagar loved the song Man in the Box and played the video for everybody in the band. And they said, "Well, look at these guys. They're fucking cool." When we first started opening for Van Halen, our set list led with Real Thing, and Man in the Box was our closer. We wanted to save our big hit for last, but by that time the Van Halen fans were flipping us off and booing at us. After a couple of rough shows, Hagar said, "Open with Man in the Box, you dumb fucks." We took his advice and it really helped. We had an ongoing prank war with Van Halen. One time they pulled 4 pranks on us during one set. First, they put strips of upward-facing duct tape all over the stage. And then a group of ugly strippers came on stage for a song. Next, one of their techs, in a little Bo Peep outfit with live sheep, took the stage. And during our last song of the set, the Van Halen crew came out and started breaking down our gear while we were still playing the song. They left Sean with just a kick and snare. They left Jerry with only one cab and just unplugged Mike. And that was all in one fucking set. But we weren't gonna let them have the last laugh.
Hey, put some clothes on, Mom.
And Van Halen used to do this signature walk across the stage. And at the time they had these skimpy panties that they would sell to the chicks in the audience. Like really fucking skimpy. So we took some of these panties and put them on. And of course they weren't big enough to keep our junk in. So we had to turn them around with the butt parts in front to keep our stuff together. And we paired them with some combat boots. We made ourselves up as strippers and did that Van Halen signature walk across the stage behind them. And they didn't know it was happening. Eddie is one of those guys who never fucks up. I've seen him play in so many different states, and he's always on point. But hearing him miss a couple notes while getting a laugh out of us was great. Eddie would hang out in our room more than he hung with his own band. And sometimes Jerry would be late for sound check, and Eddie would take his spot and come rock out with us. He became really good friends with Jerry. During the tour, Jerry wanted to buy one of Eddie's guitars and amplifiers. After the tour was over, Jerry went to Kelly Curtis's house. He was living in the basement there. Curtis asked him to move out the garage full of amplifiers and guitars that Eddie Van Halen sent over as gifts. Michael Anthony gave Mike a couple of his Spectre basses that he wasn't using, and those guys were super generous with us. Demery also came on the Van Halen tour. Her, Mike, and I had more fun than everybody else. It was a constant party, and Mike slept with a different girl every night. But the tour wasn't just laughs and good times. Darkness crept its way into our camp. Mike got caught trading backstage passes and guest list spots for drugs and money. It wasn't a good look for anyone, and was a sign of the path he was headed down. One night we ran out of coke, and Demery went out looking for more, but came back with heroin instead. And she'd been using off and on, but I hadn't touched it before. When I took that first hit, for the first time in my life, I got on my knees, and then I thanked God for feeling good. I got a taste of oblivion, and from then on, I would do any and everything to get back there. In oblivion, I'm the cleanest, tallest, strongest, wisest person that I can be.
But I'm gonna try for the kingdom if I can, 'cause it makes me feel like I'm a man when I put a spike into my vein. And I tell you, things aren't quite the same when I'm rushing on my run, and I feel just like Jesus' son. And I guess that I just don't know, and I guess that I just don't know. Try to nullify my life, 'cause when the blood begins to flow, when it shoots up the dropper's neck, when I'm closing in on death, you can't help me, not you guys, or all you sweet girls with all your sweet talk. Years ago,